All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Pacelli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Colorado Avalanche, not the way that they drew this one up or thought this one would go, and they lose to the Seattle Kraken for the first time in franchise history, 3-2. And I've been saying it for weeks, Kyle. This was a trap game. It was clear as day trap game. We'll get to it all and then some. But first things first, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Follow the show on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions to lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow the show on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. I'm sure there's some panic going around in some form, not that like, oh God, the postseason is now doomed and what's going on with the Avalanche, but losing to a team like Seattle at this stage of the season does leave a bad taste in your mouth. I think if you had lost to Seattle earlier of the other two games that you played them, I don't think it would be as much of under a microscope, maybe as I'm making it out to be, because you have to take a lot into consideration here. You have to take a lot of, Mikko Rantanen was not playing. Mm-hmm. I think he was just sick. They said it was not COVID related. So he may be just feeling under the weather. Obviously, you don't have the players. You don't have Devon Taves. All those guys, obviously Landeskog, Kadri came back. So that was good to see. And even, I'm not using that as an excuse because I still think you should have beaten this team with all of those players that you had and all the players that you didn't have. And, you got to throw some credit Seattle's way. They came out ready to play. The Avalanche did not. They got better as the game went on, but by then it was too late. You already surrendered 3 goals in the first period, and it was just too much to get back into it.
The cause of concern and the level of concern falls into which area of the fan base you're at right now. If you're part of the fan base that's like, we've already clinched, we got a spot in the playoffs, the President's Trophy don't matter. Keep me away from the President's Trophy. Nobody wins the President's Trophy and the Stanley Cup, yada, yada, yada. If that's your line of thought, this game means nothing to you. If you are of the line of thinking that we could get the most points in franchise history, we can win the President's Trophy, we can win out, we're good enough to allow maintenance days if you want them. Like, you don't have to play. Let's rest up a little bit and still feel like you can win game in, game out. Yes, this is not just a bad loss to Seattle. This is 2 losses in a row in games that you should have won. And the energy and your preparedness for both games were not there.
That's my problem. I thought they looked good against Washington. You know what I mean? I thought they looked good enough to win that game. I should say that. It wasn't their best performance by any stretch. But I thought they played an okay game and they were in it and they could have won that game. My concern for this game is like, why didn't you come out with a little bit more energy? Why? Like what's there should be no reason at this point in the season. What's on the line. If you're saying things like, we want that President's Trophy, then you need to come out with it. I don't care that it was Seattle. You know what I mean? Like, put your foot on their throat and put some pressure on it. And because a team like that a team like Seattle will cave if you got up 3-0. You know what I mean? Where you are in the standings and where they are in the standings, you get up 3-0 the way that Seattle did. You just flip those goals around. Seattle will have the mindset of like, oh man, we're done. We're in for it. We're going to pack it in. But you give a team like Seattle, who, oh, by the way, this is the first 3-game win streak that they've had in their history.
Ooh.
And by saying that, I mean, for the season, we have 5 or 6 games to go. And I think it's the same for them. And this is their first 3-game winning streak. So, they are playing when they get up 3-0 and they're riding a 2-game winning streak. That's a 10-game winning streak to us. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to minimize them or anything like that, but To have a team on a mini winning streak and then give them 3 goals against one of the best teams in the league, their emotions are through the roof. Their confidence is through the roof, and they played a good clamp down game after that.
And you knew this was going to happen. The last time we played Seattle, we had to come back. It took 2 goals in the third period for the Avalanche to win that game 4-3. And you knew they're scrappy. You knew the whole Grubauer in net and the bad blood and all that beautiful bean footage that goes along with that. But this is a game you should win. This is a game, if you want to take the night off, score 3 goals in the first period like they did.
Right.
There is no reason that they should try and push. They've already been taken out of the game. Like, nothing looked right. The energy wasn't there. You couldn't set up in the offense to cycle the puck and get a good shot. So Seattle felt like this was our night. Let's continue our streak and let's beat Colorado. This is something that they're going into the locker room talking about. And the Avalanche, this oh well attitude is not what like a team of this caliber should be thinking right now.
No, and that oh well attitude was in the first. I mean, it had to turn around. When you're down 3-0, you can't come out with that same energy. Clearly,
no.
So they didn't, and then they started amping it up a little bit. They had some really good chances in the second. That they had some good chances in the third. You had the Lehkonen goal, who pulled it within 3-2, which was the final. Obviously, that was a little bit too little, too late. But the power play looked atrocious. Horrible. 0 for 2 on the power play. It was a pretty docile game for the most part. There wasn't a lot of bodies getting thrown around, not a lot of scrums or anything like that. So Seattle wasn't going to being up 3-0, and they did get the Cale Makar goal, which was another highlight reel goal from him. Good Lord. We'll talk about that. But Seattle was in a place where they're not going to do stupid penalties. They're not going to do it. And the Avs had to fight back like they had to against Washington. And I guess you give them credit for coming back a little bit, and they did make a game of it. But it's just, when you come out as flat as they did in the first half of that first period, and Seattle takes advantage of it. If Seattle didn't score and you skated out of that, maybe down 1-0 or 1-1 with the Makar goal, then fine. Then we'll come back in the second. We got our legs for whatever reason we didn't have them in the first, and you take your chances. But this just goes to show you it does not matter in the NHL. One of the worst teams in the league can build a 3-0 lead against one of the best teams in the league, and it's very tough to come back from that. I don't care where you are in the standings. I think Kyle froze up on me. Where'd he go? Okay, so we had some technical difficulties, but we are back, and we'll just keep this train going with different jerseys behind me now. So, all right, let's move on to Shady Rays, and then we'll keep this conversation going. Shady Rays, independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of a $200 pair of sunglasses, like Kyle is wearing right now. Well, he's not wearing the $200 pair of sunglasses. He's wearing some sweet Shady Rays. So you get a polarized lens. You get polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is the Shady Rays Insane Protection Program Guarantee. Shady Rays includes lost or broken protection on every pair. They will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you will pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com. Use the code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized lenses. That code is LOCKED ON for the best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. I just want to keep reading, so you just have to do that. You should just do that anyway, no matter what we're talking about. That's a workout. I mean, you'll be
It is.
arms will be the the biceps will be jacked by the end of it. Yeah. All right. Where were we talking about the terrible game?
Yeah, anything but Seattle game, please.
I know. And we will get to the sound check too, which is posted, but we'll get way to that too, for reasons we just have to talk about. So, mention the Cale Makar goal. I mean, and I said on Twitter, I'm running out of adjectives to describe this dude, and he still has 15 years probably left in the league. So you're gonna run out of things. Everything that you say about him, it's just you've said it before, and that like you're gonna go. You could have a career highlight reel film for him based on just this season. It's incredible. I mean, and that was just the awareness of that guy to know what the defenders are likely going to do, and to stick handle, puck handle,
not just that. You could say he's almost bland, like you could say he's bland.
Yes,
that's an adjective we haven't used yet. He's bland. He's boring. Just like and it was good to see him up against like Matty Beniers, like two really young, hot, the faces of what the NHL is going to be. And like we talk about Cale's hockey IQ all the time, but especially in a game like that where like the no pun intended Kraken fans, but like the tide is turning out of the Avalanche reach, like for Cale to step up in that moment and right the ship, another nautical pun, like that's what the that's what the Avalanche need. And for moments like that, especially like put yourself in his shoes, like where were you at his age? Could you possibly like take that like responsibility and authority to be like, this is on me, I got this? I mean, it speaks a lot to not just his character but his skill as well.
But I loved his reaction after the goal, like when he was celebrate with the team, and you go back to the bench and you walk through, you slap gloves. He was kind of yelling at the guys. You didn't really you don't see that too much. It's kind of like a quiet leader. And for the rest of the game, he was up, and like he was kind of mixing it up with the refs every once in a while. Something happened at the end of the game. It was when the goalie was pulled. I think he thought, according to the altitude broadcast, and I didn't see this, so we really don't know what he was mad about. Maybe they were thinking that he that Grubauer, or not Grubauer, somebody had like hand passed the puck to Grubauer. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what it was. It was just Makar's reaction to it. It was like he wanted this game. And I'm not asking why, because every game is important. So I like the fact that he's wanting to win a game, even though it's against the Seattle Kraken. Maybe it was that. Maybe it's like, are we really going to lose to this team? And maybe it's just he doesn't want his players to just start falling back when the end is in sight for the regular season. You want to start, or you want to finish pretty much how you've been playing, for most of the season, especially this month. But he knows you have a team like St. Louis who's cruising. You know what I mean? And you don't, because when you lose to the Kraken, despite everybody that didn't play, that's not going to be brought up as an excuse. Like people are going to look at this and be like, what's up with the Avalanche? And then we've seen it already. We were talking about it before we hit record again, that people are already, and I know this is subjective, removing the Avalanche from their number one spot in their power rankings. It's like, okay, like whatever. In the grand scheme, I know it doesn't mean anything, but it's like what this team has done for the entirety of the season, and then they lose back-to-back games, and then we're removing them. And it kind of goes to what we were talking about the other day about just this team, just people wanting to just remove themselves from this team on a national scale so quickly.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time. Like the Avs are at a point where they could scratch and they could give maintenance days. Like, and we talk about, you could, I've seen the memes and stuff where you could screenshot the scratch roster and you're like, this scratch roster could win a playoff game. And when you talk about the Avalanche team this year, it's always talked about like depth. We finally got depth. Everything's like, I get it. So you can't say, yeah, this team is deep and this team is skilled. But then when they drop one to the Kraken, you say, well, if we had Miko, if we had Gabe, if we had,
Yeah, exactly.
You can't get it. You can't have it both ways. It doesn't work that way. And then you can't say, well, President's Trophy really doesn't mean that much. It's just nice, but I hope we get there without being injured. No, if you want to win the games, it's called character, team character. You want to win the games if you even don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, you still want to continue on as you're doing. You don't want to take that step back because this team is not built that way. So the excuses for when you lose, I won't listen to it. Guess what? The Avalanche can have a bad game, but don't just like write off the rest of the games following.
Yeah. I think, it was a tale of two games for Pablo Francouz. It wasn't completely his fault. I mean, the entire team was just that they weren't really helping him out, especially the very first goal. Just a bad turnover, and Cole Lind is his name, gets his second of the season, and it was a very nice looking shot. I mean, it's not something that Grubauer was going to stop, but he collected himself and he finished the game strong. But this just goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's just like, it doesn't matter when you spot, whether or not you spot the Florida Panthers 3 goals or you spot Seattle 3 goals, that is a mountain to climb. And the Avalanche tried. Like I said, they turned it around. They had to. They had no other chance. It's like, okay, we're either going to turn this around and make this a game, or we're going to get blown out by the Seattle Kraken. No, that's not. And like you said, it goes back to the President's Trophy thing. Like, yeah, this team is playing to win games. They're not out of the woods. If they want that President's Trophy, then they need to win games, and you need players out there to do it. And they're going to be out. You can't rest everybody. You can't play the game that way. I've seen so many teams in many sports who have things wrapped up very early. It happened to the Denver Broncos of all teams back in the 90s, and they rested players, and then they lost to who? The Jacksonville Jaguars. And still, which is one of the most like gut-wrenching losses in history of that franchise, because they rested players.
Yeah.
You just don't do it. You can't. I mean, you can do here and there, but it is what it is.
And when you're talking about Frankie, like, yes, it's when you look back at this game, you're going to remember that terrible 1-shot, 1-goal, like, to start it out. The score was 3-2. They got 3 goals in the first period.
Yeah.
That's it. When it comes to the shots, it was 29-27 Seattle. So that's 26 other shots that he blocked through the rest of the game.
And what was it by period? For the Avs, it was 10-7-10. For Seattle, 11-12-6. They only held them to 6 shots in the third. Yeah.
And we mentioned this a couple times, like the goalies, both DK and Frankie, when they let up goals like this and they kind of get behind the 8 ball, they stand up and finish out the rest of the game. It was a good way for Frankie to clean it up, but to your point, like, the defense did not help him out any. And you can't make turnovers like, we say this all the time, you can't make turnovers like this. And if you look at the stats of the game, the Avalanche didn't win in any category. So you lost in faceoffs, you did not capitalize on the power play, and the turnovers ended up burning you in the end.
I mean, there were guys out there that I didn't know. I mean, I didn't notice that they were even there. I'm not kidding you. At one point, I was asking myself, I'm like, was Newhook one of those guys that they gave the night off?
Yeah.
And the answer is no. Like, you didn't see him. Like, he was.
I was looking
invisible.
for Berkey for a majority of the game. I could not find him.
I know he doesn't play a lot, but he played almost 10 minutes in Curtis McDermott.
Oh yeah.
And he was not, there was a couple times where you saw him and he played defense, but he was one of the guys making like the push at a forward spot. And it was him and I think Helm. And imagine if you're Darren Helm and you have a 2-on-1 ish breakaway, and the other guy is Curtis McDermott. You're like, oh man, like, okay, well,
it felt like the only line that you saw was that Kadri, Nichushkin, Lehkonen line. It honestly, like, you felt like you saw them all game long. And defense, you would see Manson when things went south, but it was a weird night.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to Bet Online, and then we'll talk about that President's Trophy. Because after a loss, you get some of those people that are just like, "Oh, we don't need it anyway. I didn't want it. I don't want it. It's bad news." We'll talk about it. BetOnline.net, your number one source for all of your betting stats and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs to esports and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. That is betonline.net, where the game starts. All right, so we move on from that. It's a loss. You haven't suffered too many of them. But we do have to do a sound check. So songs that describe the action against the Seattle Kraken. And if you are new to this, you can follow the playlist, which we have created and curated over on Spotify. Just search LOPN Soundcheck. Yeah, I mean, another loss. So these are probably going to be some downer songs. They are already posted because of our internet connection issues. I put them up anyway, so you might know what they are, but we'll talk about them and the reasons why we picked these particular songs. Go ahead, sir.
A song called Rockstar Sea Shanty.
Yeah, go ahead. Well,
if we're playing the Seattle Kraken, everything's nautical themed. Shiver me timbers ahoy.
Yeah.
So why not, after we watch 3 periods of suffering and just a blasé performance, why not suffer with one of the most memeable, jokeable songs literally put out from the band themselves, Nickelback, and the lottery winners? Like, let's listen to Rockstar Sea Shanty.
Where did you find this?
Actually, me being the lame guy that I am, I don't mind Nickelback.
Okay.
And I remember, I think it was last year when this came out, I got the notification. I listened to the song and I was like, this slaps.
When you played it for me, I was like, well, it's listenable. It's not bad. Yeah. And then the fact that the band like is in it, like they created this thing with, I don't know who the lottery winners are. I've never really heard of them.
It was about that time where sea shanties were like very popular.
Yeah, aren't they like making a comeback?
Yeah,
like in some sort. I think TikTok is to blame for that. But
and I think there was an Assassin's Creed game that also incorporated a lot of sea shanties. So really? it started catching on again.
Yeah. So you've gone the route of Nickelback. Nickelback has made the playlist. I didn't think it was going to happen, but you only get the best here.
Hey,
amazing.
I'm a low-key Nickelback fan. I could go deep in their catalog and blow your mind.
I mean,
we still got season to go.
They take a lot of flack, and I think it's just, at this point, it's just like a funny internet thing that people do. Are they this horrible, horrendous band? No, they are what they are, but I mean, nobody's expecting them to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But
no,
I think just become a punchline is what it is.
Everybody's burnt out with their super commercial stuff that everybody hears, but it's like a lasagna. Scrape away the burnt stuff on the top. Once you get down underneath, they got some stuff that's really good deep in their catalog.
All right. I'm not going to say I'm going to go explore that catalog, but
Nickelback lasagna, do it.
For me, I was gonna go with a particular song, and I guess I'll have to save it for next year now, because I was just assuming the Avalanche were gonna win this thing, and then when they didn't, I had to change my tune. No
I did
pun
too.
intended.
I did too. I was very excited to put one band in there for the first time, but it didn't
Yeah.
get to happen.
So I went with this one band who's a phenomenal band. They're called Deaf Heaven, and I don't typically like if lyrics are you cannot understand them, like the every single note is just like screaming, like swallowing the microphone. Like I'm not typically into that. But with this band is a different animal. It's like this shoegazy, like really like incredibly melodic, like black metal. Um, and I found these guys, they had like the number one song on Metacritic, or the number one album on Metacritic a few years ago, and I'm like, who is this band? And I listened to it and I just blown away by them.
Wow.
That album was called Sunbather. It's a for a black metal band to have a pink album cover was like, well, these guys are breaking the mold. So I listened to it, was just blown away by it. Been a huge fan of them ever since. And this is on a album called Ordinary Corrupt Human Love is the name of the album. And I went with this song Worthless Animal because I was so angry. I'm like, what the heck is a Kraken anyway? Who cares? What, like, I don't what, I liked the name in the beginning. I don't like it anymore. And I was very, very bitter after the loss that I didn't want to hear the name Kraken. And I went from thinking it's a very cool nickname for a team to hating it.
Yeah.
For a few minutes after that game was over. I think I'm back to like, I'm all right now. I overreacted a little bit, but I went with Worthless Animal. Check them out. That song that's on there is a 10-minute song. That's just fantastic. They're a band. They'll blow your mind. That's how
I found out about the Who. The Who. Was Metacritic.
Really?
It's like throat singing, like kind of metal.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. All right. Check that out. I think you like Deaf Heaven. They're a different band, but they'll have some like shredding, like metal stuff, but then each song around like the 5-minute mark changes, and it's like this beautiful, like orchestral stuff. Like it's crazy. It's crazy.
A black metal band that'll burn down the church and then spray Febreze afterwards.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. I think that's I'm updating their Wikipedia now. That's how you describe them. All right, so go check that stuff out. But the President's Trophy, we get into that time of the year and especially because the Avalanche won it last year and they faltered. People are like, don't want it, hands off. I'm not that guy. I want them to have it. I want them, and not for just the bragging rights to have it, but I want home ice advantage. If you come in second, well, the way that the Avalanche are right now, they have the West locked up. So they'll get it if the Panthers happen to falter and not make it. Okay, but you want it in your hands, and then you're controlling the situation here.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people who say like it's like a curse, and there's not a lot of teams that have won the President's Trophy and the Stanley Cup at the same. Like, I get all that. That's, if you're watching on YouTube, Kyle just slowly moved to the side to show you the banner of when the Avalanche won the President's Trophy and the Stanley Cup. I don't know, like it doesn't happen a lot. So that's another reason why I want it, because it doesn't happen all the time. So you have a good enough team to go win it, go win everything, have everything. And then, like we said, when you look back on this team, all of those things you've checked off that this team has and has won throughout the season.
Yeah, you want that like home ice advantage, especially with that. Think of it like this. If I don't tell you it's called the President's Trophy, I say, hey, if the Avalanche just win out and beat Florida, they get home ice advantage throughout the playoffs. Like it's one of those gimmicky things that MLB used to do for the All-Star game. Everybody would be like, yeah, the Avalanche are really good at home. I would take that all day long. Well, guess what? That's the President's Trophy. That's what you're playing for. It's not a curse. Guess what? Yeah. You win the President's Trophy or you don't. When you get in the playoffs, everybody's put in the same randomizer. It doesn't matter what you've done. Playoff hockey is a different animal. The curse between the President's Trophy and your success has nothing to do. There's no correlation. Regular season hockey is one thing. Playoff hockey is another. That's why we want the home ice advantage, because this team is not just a regular season team, but they're built for the playoffs. And that's why it matters.
I mean, you look at the when teams don't want to touch the conference championship trophies, and to me that I just think that's dumb. I want, like, go take that thing and go celebrate with your team. That's an accomplishment. I'm not saying you have to, pass it around like it's a Stanley Cup, but pick that thing up, bring it into the locker room, dump some champagne on it. You know what I mean? Like, I want the team to pick that up and celebrate with it. And, there's people out there that are so against that. Like, do not touch that thing. I don't know. I'm just not a superstitious. I think everybody has like superstitions that they abide by. And I think maybe I'm trying to think of some that maybe I do, but I don't. They're not so a part of me that they're so like ritualistic that I have to do them, that I feel I'm so connected with this team, and that if I don't do them, they're gonna play well.
Well,
that's ridiculous.
I'm very superstitious. Like, that's why I have like home and away jerseys, because if we're home or away, I'm matching the jersey. Like, I'm very superstitious, but like when I don't, even as a very superstitious guy, I see no stition, super or not, in the President's Trophy and your success in the playoffs. Like, there's no correlation between the two, because it's two different. They don't have anything to do with each other. Like, so, because what are you going to say? Like, because of the success that Montreal and St. Louis had, you want to be relatively bad and then kind of squeak your way in there because they had success at getting to the Cup final? Like, you can draw it up all different ways, but it's all about how you play in the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't. You know what one is for me? Like, I don't even know if it's a superstition or if it's just like my and everybody has like some form of OCD, by the way, too. Like, the volume always has to be on an even number for me.
It has to be on a 5 or a 0.
Really?
Yep.
It's got to be on an even number. I can't have it on an odd number.
It has to be on a 5 or a 0, or don't let me see it.
Really? Like, there was a time, like, back when I was like huge into NFL, and I'm still into like NFL, but like when NFL was like life, and I'd watch a Broncos game, like I had a spot on the couch. Like, I had to sit there. I've gotten over that crap. Like, it's not.
I have numerous hockey superstitions, so that's why it's something for the very hockey superstitious guy to laugh at the President's Trophy superstition.
Well, and I think that's another, like, for me, I don't know, like, I feel like those little things, like the volume and where I sit, I feel like the little things, like, I have to do, like the big ones that everybody's like superstitious about. Like, I don't care about those things. I'm telling you, if I was a captain of a team that won a conference championship, I'm grabbing that trophy. I'm doing it, and I'm letting everybody know beforehand, like, we're doing this.
Yeah, because you won that, so go own it. Like, you got it. Pick it up.
Yes.
That's yours. Like, come on. Don't say, well, it's bad luck. No, you earned that.
Right.
So
I want to know. And especially on YouTube, some superstitions that we have, whether they're watching sports, whether just in general. I know people have superstitions when they're like driving in their cars. So like, you have to take a specific route. I don't know, anything.
It's the air conditioning settings for me as well.
What is it? Like, what do you have to have it?
It can't be all the way. It's got to be at that third level. It's got to be right there. And then whatever, like, it's the knobs have to be kind of like correlating.
Yeah. Like, for me, like, ever since I've had Sirius XM, I've had it for a very long time. Pearl Jam radio is my number one setting. It's been that way like ever since it came into existence. For Pearl Jam radio has. Yeah, like it will never move from setting number one. And I just feel like right now I would be like disowning the band.
I did that with my first car. The CD that was always in there was AC/DC Live.
Really?
And I felt like I was doing something bad to the band if I took it out.
Yeah. I remember like when we had the flip books of CDs in the car, like that first page had to be like your best 4 CDs.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So Yeah, but make some comments. Want to know what you guys do superstition wise while you're watching a game or otherwise. And I remember Nomar Garcia Parra had tons of superstitions before every single pitch during a game. Go watch that guy. Crazy stuff. All right. That'll wrap it up for today. Kyle and I will be back tomorrow. This is all getting jacked up with the internet going out, but I don't know. I think we'll do one tomorrow, right? I mean, why not? What the heck?
Sure.
All right. So yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. Brand new episode. Anything that happens, we will be discussing it. And the Avalanche are playing Edmonton, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we'll definitely be talking about that. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Go check out Locked On NHL. Make that your second listen of the day. Get caught up in everything going on around the league. Until then, he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. It's the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.